Welcome to It's Your Move, a weekly podcast where we talk about the ever-changing world of work,
finding satisfaction in what you do,
and laughing through it all as you figure it out. Because wherever you are, it's your move. So this week I wanted to talk about something that I'm really passionate about that you did a great job of teaching me, which was finding strength in hard choices. Now, the reason that I want to bring this up is because I've had a lot of conversations in the last few weeks about the choices that people have made. So, when I think about the strength in hard choices, what I mean is the strength to do something different than what the status quo is doing. You know, how we talked last week about how I went to community college, and you were a big proponent of that. You know, leaving my first job as I was kind of entering more the career stage of it, things like that. As we kind of get into this topic, do you have a time in your life or career that you made a hard choice that was super countercultural? That was like everybody else was doing one thing, but you decided to listen to yourself or listen to somebody else that you really trusted and you went in a different direction, but it really benefited you in the long run?
Yeah, I mean, when I think back to career, as we're thinking about careers and those choices specifically, I think a big one was actually in high school. And there were programs, and I don't even know if they have these programs now, but where I could go for a semester to college the summer before my senior year. I applied to a program at Georgetown,
Mm-hmm.
and it was psychology, which I was interested in. And my mom definitely helped me like figure all this out. She was super interested in it too. So that was just kind of a random thing. And it was 6 weeks. So it was a big chunk of your summer that you went away and you got that kind of college experience without having to show up day one and try to figure out how all this works. It totally changed the way that I thought about my freshman year going to college. It was definitely a strange program. I didn't know anybody else that had done it. And because my parents were entrepreneurs and kind of countercultural anyway, having a dad that's an immigrant, all of that, we weren't really tied into kind of what everybody else was doing. I really feel like that experience was something that really shaped my choices in the future. And I wasn't yet a senior in high school.
Yeah. I always think that from when we moved to Florida when we were kids. I always felt like when you guys made choices that were hard, like picking up your family and moving to Florida for 4 years just because you really wanted to, like that experience alone built a lot of resilience in me. I feel like I think Mick would say the same, that when you move or you go to different schools, you have to kind of learn to think on your feet and how to make new friends and how to do all of that.
And resilience was the word. And I remember, I mean, obviously, it was a pretty hard change. I often say it was a pretty gutsy change, just to bring you all here. But I really did believe that the world was changing so fast and that for you to stay all the way through in this bubble probably wasn't the best thing for you.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it wasn't just about that, but it was all of us having to get pushed out of our comfort zone and see some new things and have the adventure of starting life in a different place. No, it wasn't that different because we had been coming here for, your whole lives.
Right.
But I always thought that was going to be so helpful to you because I always did, and I still do, look to the future, and I love that. I love doing that. But what comes with that is that I could see early on that like these traditional paths of all the places we were going wasn't going to work in the future. So how do I think about how to get you ready for that?
Yeah.
And I remember there was a college that had a motto around that when we were sending you to college that was something like, how do you prepare for a job that doesn't even exist right now? And that's what we're doing right now. We don't know what jobs we're preparing people for. So anyway, the resilience, I think, was just a big part of that. I think that's what I learned through my hard choices. And I tried to help, I guess, throw you into situations that you had to find your resilience.
I think that if I hadn't had all of those experiences, the resilience wouldn't have been there or wouldn't have been as strong. And when it comes to change now, I feel pretty malleable. Like I can make a change and it's tough, but I can do it, and I think a lot of people still really struggle with that.
And there are days that I look back on it and think, wow, it just would have been so much easier if like you guys had gone from the beginning lockstep with everybody else, for all of us. But
yeah,
it also has been an incredible adventure, and that's where I often get back to the people that we've met on the road. That as we're out there, when you put yourself out there doing these things, you meet different people.
Yeah.
And then those become the people that help you on your road and then into your careers and all those things. So
yeah. And when I talk to clients about making hard choices, or when I ask a client, if you know what kind of business you want to start already, and you already have some clients for your car wash business or your lawn care business, I often ask them, well, why don't you just focus on that for a while? Why are you going to college if you already kind of have a path? And they say, well, my parents would be so mad. And they say, my parents want me to be here. My parents said I have to get some kind of degree. Even looking to my Disney career, I had a lot of people at Disney who I talked to them, and we touched on this a little bit last week, about how much our families get involved in our careers also, and they kind of build their lives around where we are and what we do. And so at Disney, I would talk to some of my friends and I would say, well, why don't you leave? And they would say, oh, my parents would be furious. My parents would be so upset. So tell me, what kind of advice would you give to parents right now about pushing their kids to make hard choices? And while, even though it might make them uncomfortable, and all these parents that I hear about behind the scenes, these kids are going to their parents for advice. And the advice they're getting is not very good. So, what if you were the parents? How would you coach those or guide those parents through that?
I would encourage them to help their son or daughter find a guide.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very, very difficult as the parent to guide your own child in what their career should be. And I think we get ourselves in trouble when we take our own agenda and decide that that's right for them. Now, hopefully, they'll back into what you think is right for them, but you've got to let them go enough to have somebody else help them with it. And that is also why guide, because the therapist was great. You remember going to her. She did do some career stuff too.
That was really why
outside the therapist.
Yeah, that was really why I started going to her.
And then I also had a coach. My family business went to the same coach. We had him as a guide. We still talk about, that. We talked about that a little last week. And, I think that's the biggest thing, is to loosen up enough to believe that the right people will cross their paths, but also to help them find those people.
Yeah.
Because they can equally find the ones that are not going to help them.
Do you think that parents often give the advice to go to college, or like once they start their career, not to leave their job even if they're unhappy, because they're afraid of giving bad advice to their kids, or they want to keep their kids safe? They want their kids to be happy, but more than anything, they want them to be safe and secure. And so they find that those traditional steps equal security. So do you think that that's what pushes a lot of those decisions?
So I would say safety is just a top priority for us, specifically as mothers. And it's hard to think about them doing something that could be unsafe or uncomfortable, but also why we have to realize we don't really control that. You are your own person that has to control that yourself. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think that, and I remember you saying this a few times since I've left Disney. And when I worked for Disney, I worked there for 7 years. And I had this great career. I met a lot of wonderful people. My inner circle became like my family. Their families became like my families. It all just was this great relationship that we all had. And since I've left, I've heard you say a few times, I miss your kind of cozy little bubble over there. And I miss the cozy little bubble for sure. And I think that as a parent, when your kid gets into a cozy bubble where they have a great situation and great friends, and then they're like, actually, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to make this other decision and I'm going to go live in some random place. You're sitting there like, well, no, don't do that, because I finally have you kind of, I don't want to say locked up, but I kind of have you finally just stay right there. Then I have to think to myself, okay, should I stay in this kind of cozy bubble? But that expression that everybody says, the ships at harbor are safe, but that's not what ships are for, or whatever.
Right.
Same thing about your life. It's like, I loved being cozy in my little bubble over there, but I don't think that was serving me in any way. But I think that parents just want their kids, they want to do right by their kids, and it's through no fault of their own. But I think that the way that parents need to do right by their kids now is to push them to do the uncomfortable things, because that's what's going to set them apart in the long run. I think that's what's going to really make the difference in their career, is being able to make strong choices and do uncomfortable things and not do what everybody else is doing, because those days are kind of over,
I just wanted to add to this conversation and say that one of the one of the most popular conversations that I have with clients right now is the conversation that I've applied to 5 million jobs and I haven't heard back from anyone, and it's really discouraging, and it's a lot of hard work. And I think it just goes along with this topic of, we're in a world where the hard stuff has now become easy. Stuff like submitting a resume and cover letters have become super easy, so we have to do more than just that to stick out as an individual and get ahead of everyone else who is just doing the easy stuff. But I think that's so much easier said than done, because you don't know what the hard stuff is, or you might not want to do it. It might be a conversation with someone in networking and doing things like thinking outside of the box that are going to be the reason why you get a job, and you have to stop applying to 5 million jobs.
There were several times that when you were looking for a job, you went right into a business and said, do you have any jobs available? I'd like to work here.
There was a PR company in downtown St. Pete that I pretended to not know that they were there and not know what jobs they had available before ringing their Ring doorbell, and then playing low key a little bit dumb of like, oh, I'm just an individual who's moving over here. And it totally worked. They got to see my personality, and then they got to tell me a little bit about them.
And then they interviewed
And then they interviewed me.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah.
So sometimes it really is just doing the hard thing that you really, really don't want to do. And if that's going to be, if that takes someone like us telling you to do it, or you leaning on your parents or support system, and us telling the support system that sometimes you just need the encouragement to do it. You just need someone who is telling you, keep going, keep trying, do the unconventional thing. You won't fit in the box, so don't fit in the box. Go do something else,
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay, that was all I wanted to add.
Thanks, Angelina.
Yes, you're welcome, everybody.
Appearance.
Yeah. I have a thought from this. From, how we're kind of trying to do the perspective from above, perspective from below. I think that when it comes to people my age, around my age, I think this has gotten so much harder from social media, because I think that social media has this way of making you see other people's lives and be like, oh, well, I want to do that, or they've got it all figured out, or they did X, Y, and Z, so if I do X, Y, and Z, it's going to work out like that for me. And, or just wanting to fit the box. Like, you see Joe Schmo from high school just got married, and now he has his first kid, and they just bought a beach house and everything like that. And you want to keep up appearances so much. You want to keep up, like when you were in high school, you weren't necessarily, you were still seeing what other people were doing, but
procuring your brand at an early age,
right.
You call that.
Yeah,
but no, that's definitely changed everything, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where this goes, because I was just listening to a podcast that they're talking about taking the phones out of schools. So, I mean, I think that there's a certain age before you can even be on social media. I mean, you were of the time that it was just evolving. So it started to impact you more as you were like later in high school and college. But yeah, we didn't have any of that. So that's all it's gonna be. I mean, it's not like it's gonna go away. So helping your kids through that. But again, why I think having people, and call them guides, but that that you can go to for help. You can reach
Mhm.
out and just say, hey, let me run this by you. I think that's for any hard choices, like you're saying. It's just getting your own head around it. And a lot of times it's just having somebody to talk to.
I always felt like making hard choices, I kind of felt lonely in those processes. And it wasn't that other people weren't dreaming and scheming or anything, but when you make a decision outside the box or when you make a choice that's not what everybody else is doing, I think you're met with a lot of questions, not even criticism. Just I think that our friends and family are inherently worried about us and they want us to be successful. So when they see us making these kind of weird choices, they're
Or
like,
things that
"Oh,
they can't understand.
right.
And nobody can because it's changing so fast. So,
Right,
like,
right.
who am I to say whether your choice is right or wrong? I don't know. So, even as I talk to my friends about work that aren't like in it, like I am right now, like, I'll just say, oh my gosh, it's just crazy out here. I don't even know where to begin. That's all
Yep.
I say. Because
Yep.
it's like, anytime I do start talking about it, they see it from their perspective and it sounds like I'm unhappy. So then they're trying to fix it.
Yep.
And then that makes me feel worse. And so that's why I think being prepared for those conversations is important too. I don't know if
Mhm.
you remember, but somewhere along the way, I told you guys, like, just say what you think the other person wants to hear.
Mhm.
You don't have to get yourself all worked up about whether you have your life plan figured out or
Right.
not.
And you were making strong kind of out of the box choices. And I remember you saying when you moved us to Florida, my grandma was super upset about it and was like, "How could you do this? How did you just stay strong on those choices and not backtrack and know that you were on the right path?"
Very hard, very much my routines that I've built that I like to try to teach other people
Mm.
because it's hard. It's a lot
Mhm.
of work. And every day I have to start a certain way. Every night I end a certain way. And because it's just me. I mean, you're on your own, kid. I
Yeah.
mean, it is just you. And you could see it as lonely, or you could see it as, well, I'm tapping into the higher part of me and the
Mhm.
best of me. And this is what I decided that, for all these reasons. I mean, that's why I do writing and I do
Mhm.
some version of morning pages of the artist way. But like, I do that. So in my mind, I know nothing I've done was random. It took a lot of writing and thinking and put the work in to decide what my next step was going to
Mm.
be. And so then I also know that, in the execution of that is going to be the very painful thing
Mm.
because there's never going to be a day that, your mom's gonna be like, oh yeah, take my two grandchildren to Florida. I mean, they just weren't gonna like that. I
Right.
just had to be prepared for that and then just, you know, keep moving forward.
Yep.
And it's not easy, but like if you want to do anything, you got to be able to keep pushing yourself. Now, that was a big one. That was really big.
Mm.
Every day there's just
Yep.
small stuff that you're like, if I'm to handle this situation, there's going to be some people that are not going to, most people aren't
Mhm.
going to like it, but I know it needs to be done. So I'm going to move ahead without needing approval from anyone. And I'm strong enough in my own head
Mhm.
and in my own body that I know this is what I need to do.
Mhm.
Lydia and I often talk about how making those decisions is the only way that we can do it. We couldn't do it any other way. But sometimes it is exhausting to always have to be the person to pave the way and like take the next direction. So, how do you find yourself giving yourself motivation to continue to do those things and to continue to do it over and over again?
Yeah.
What we've been saying is that when I moved over here, it was like, okay, I'm moving. And then I called Angelina and was like, you're coming with me. And she was like, okay. But I kind of had to be the one to come over, establish, do it all. And then she followed me to victory, you know?
And that has made
And
it so much easier for me. I got the easy way,
Right.
and
yeah.
Lydia had to do it the hard way.
And I
Right.
think that it's kind of the same thing with you is like you had this dream of moving down here. And so then when you made that decision, you had to deal with the hard consequences and you had to pave the way. But it is so painful to have to be the like change maker or have to be the
Oh, it is. And some days I feel like so sorry for myself about that.
me too.
But also, that is what it is to live your dreams. That is
Mhm.
why just keeping your vision in mind is such an important part. And everybody says that, right? But
Mhm.
like, you have to be so clear on what you're going for that when all of these hard things happen, that you just see them as steps on your road. You know, they're milestones that, like,
Mhm.
well, okay, good. I got that out of the way. Now I'm going to try this way. All of it is in the learning and the growing. And I think the biggest thing is like, yeah, how do you keep when you are the dreamer? And this
Mhm.
is, I've reflected on this a lot because I've been accused of having delusions of grandeur, or like, why am I such a dreamer?
Mhm.
And I've had to really come to terms with, I don't know, but that's what I am. And that's what I believe I'm here for. So I can't not do that, but it is definitely outside the box. I mean, most people don't like it when you are trying to do something that is not what they would do. So it really is very much habits. You know, I talk about the cadence, the rhythm, the stuff that I learned in business about how to be successful, breaking down your goals, all that kind of stuff. And I just keep learning and growing from,
Mhm.
people on the road ahead of me
Mhm.
that kind of look like they're doing something close to what I want to be doing. And I just keep going. But it's not easy. And I think that is what growing is, because, like, in the beginning, it is really just you making these hard choices and doing them.
Mhm.
But then if you do decide to get married or have a family or, all the other things, now your choices are impacting everybody else.
Mhm.
So that makes it even harder, but now you're more ready for it because you practiced the
Mhm.
hard choices up until that point. So then it's just incremental, like, okay, now I have
Mhm.
this extra layer.
It reminds me of that Marianne Williamson quote, which is like, when you ask yourself, or you say, who am I to be great? Who am I to be famous? It's like those are the questions that people ask when you say, I want to be a singer, I'm majoring in theater, I'm moving to Spain to do X, Y, and Z. It's like people are going to come at you and make you doubt yourself. And you're going to, again, think to yourself, who am I to do all these great things? And it's like, well, I think that by being the one who's making really strong choices and going outside the box and going outside the status quo, it allows other people to feel strong in themselves. Like, I know from seeing you make hard choices, it inspired me to want to make hard choices. And I always, when I was a kid, I would say, I'm just not going to settle for a mediocre life. Like I never wanted my life to just be like,
Yeah.
So, and that was all from you, from watching you do it. And it helped me build up that confidence of like, I can do anything because I saw you that you could do anything. But how do you block out all those people that, all the naysayers? How do you block out all those, the people that when you're going to make a strong choice, they're like, are you sure? Along the path with you, I struggled with this so much when I've made my hard choices in the past that I felt like, yeah,
We don't know what it is, but the people who just say, "You go," and I'm coming with you, like
right.
Right.
Right. And that was what I always said with Angelina was I always in our relationship, I said, I'm going to make these choices, but I'm never going to ask you to hitch to my wagon. Like
Uh-huh.
I said we are driving two different wagons. And if our wagons are going in the same direction, that's great. But I'm never going to be like, yeah, I'm moving here and you can just bum it with me. Or like she was like, well, I guess she's moving, so I guess I have to move. I never ever wanted to be the person to blame in the situation,
Right.
or like, anything like that, that it was that she felt like she had to, with Angelina making the decision to move over here, I needed that to be like, this was her right next step.
That's why her having her own process and her own guides and her own people that are helping her on her path, it's her path, not your path, vice versa. And I think that's where we get in trouble with marriage, with combining households. Whatever that model is that we've been using, is that it's like you go from an I to a we. It's like, well, no, you really aren't. You still are two individual people. Now and that's why I say then the complexity starts to grow. So you have to be so strong in who you are first. And then the next level is there's another person that is also trying to figure that out. But then you have to help each other find that spot that is the best place for each of you individually, that then, you know, comes together in something, experiences that you can both have together, but it's each of your own individual plans that get you there. And that's why when we enter into those partnerships very young and we haven't figured that out for ourselves yet, it takes years, and then you come out the other side like, wait, what am I doing?
And this is not for us to say that the traditional paths that people take are wrong.
No.
You know, getting married,
It's great.
having
It's great for
kids,
you.
right? Exactly. Like following a traditional path is not a bad thing. All we are trying to push is that you are making the right choice for you, and you are not letting other people make the choices for you.
Right.
And I think that sometimes people following that path is often a disguise for, well, I was too scared to make a strong choice, so I kind of defaulted. Like, but to make a default choice, not even just marriage, but just if you start in a job in a company that you don't really like, but then you kind of start progressing forward, those aren't active choices you're necessarily making. Those are just steps that were laid out for you that you just decided to kind of follow and hope that you would find yourself along the way. But letting life happen to you rather than making these strong choices.
There's nothing wrong with it. That is why each of us are here to go down our own roads. If that is the choice that you're making, that is awesome. And there are many days I say, please, why did I have to be like that? Like, I don't want to be this. Whether we call that a dreamer or whatever it is, a big picture, looking at the future, like, I really don't want to do this. But at some level, and this is where I think we've lost our way, because we don't have any, I hate to use the word faith, but a belief in something that's helping you be who you're supposed to be. And I don't want to get into that whole conversation, but that's why choices are so hard, because you have to believe in yourself and in whatever is this higher version of you to be able to make the hard choices. And the problem is you keep leveling up. Like, so then like the next choice gets harder and harder and harder, and you can't go backwards, as I've tried many times, to be like, I can't. I'm going to just go back and try to be the way I used to be.
Yeah, but then it's how you're going to keep them down on the farm now that they've seen Perry. It's literally like they've got, once you've achieved a certain level, you can't look back and be like, I'm going to go back to that. It's like you've seen too much, you know.
Well, and I said that about working at, I was wandering around Disney, and my mom used to use that expression. It was a song, and it was like, you know, when the soldiers went out and saw the whole world, you know, how do you just go back to the farm, you know? And that's how I felt about you working at Disney. I'm like, when you've seen this whole huge world, like, you can't really just go back to Rocky River.
You know? You can't, it's hard to return to those things, and even if it feels like that would be the comfortable decision, it's not going to feel comfortable once you're there, because you're just going to be thinking about everything that you've seen. Again, staying safe is not a bad thing. These decisions that we make are not bad, but what we really are trying to preach is that as long as you are the one actually making the decisions, you are not just defaulting, you are not just voting for somebody because your husband votes for them, and that's the easiest route to take because he's told you one way, and so I'm just going to do it that way. Or living in a certain place because your partner wants to, but you don't really want to, but you're just doing it because, you know, it's better that they're making the choice for you than you actually having to do some introspection and make the choice yourself.
And maybe some people, you know, that is okay, that they're not really going to make the hard choices. And that's fine too. Like, that's the thing that I have to realize is, like, not everybody is wired like me. And that's why I got so interested in the personality stuff, because I realized through that process, the main thing I realized was that I am very uniquely wired. So that most people I'm encountering are not going to see it the same way as me. That was a huge learning for me, because I was kind of like, can't you see this? I mean, this, you know, and I get so frustrated by it. But anyway, that was a big learning.
And me too.
We're not all dreamers. We're not all wired to want these things and
right.
to experience any discomfort. And
Right.
whatever you're experiencing discomfort no matter what you do, but there just
Right.
are, not everyone is wired the way that we are, and that was
Yeah.
part of too. As soon as you were old enough, I was talking about Myers-Briggs with you.
Right. And I think that it's kind of like, it's almost frustrating because you meet these wonderful people on your path, and it's like you want to start an army of all these great people being like, everybody follow me to victory, like let's all pursue our passions,
Right.
and let's all ride into the sunset following our dreams. And as you're on your path, it just, you realize you're trudging forward and you're like, come on everybody, and then you look behind you and you've lost all these people, and not even lost them, but you're like, where'd everybody go? And they're like, no, this is too hard. And again, it's not bad, it's just like, I look to all of these people that I've had on the road, and I'm like, I'm wanting to bring everybody with me,
Yeah.
but I realize that we're all going on different roads. I
Right.
can't take everybody. It's your move,
It's your
son
move,
slash
son
daughter.
slash
Right.
daughter,
I
yeah.
can't make you change. I can't force you to do anything. And in my mind, I'm like, what are you doing sitting there? Like, don't you want to make a change? Don't you want to do something and create and have this beautiful, amazing whatever? And all these people are like, I kind of like my life the way it is.
Right.
And again, who am I to say that that's bad?
Right.
And
100%,
and so as frustrating as it is, because I want everybody to be like these, huge whatever, like these, if they have dreams, I want them to reach their ultimate dreams. But at the same time, sometimes people's dreams are shifting and changing as they're going through the workforce, and that's not a bad thing. It's just something I need to come to terms with, of my dreams have shifted and changed over the years as well. That's not a bad thing. It's just, how do you,
well, and they'll
how do you-
continue to. I mean,
Right.
They'll change tomorrow. I mean,
Mhm.
it's, and I think you working at Disney, and I think the reason that all of us we're so vested in our kids working there is that we saw that in, Walt, right? There was a guy that created this place, and it was so wonderful for us going there. But I remember when I shifted to the business of Disney, and like, how do they get the employees to create these experiences? And that was when we were going there and you were little and we lived here the first time, and like, that's when I really got fascinated in just like looking at it from the outside as a business, and like, okay, what are some of the things that happened there that Walt started with his vision and how he created that, to then be able to translate that to other people and get them to help bring that vision to life,
Right.
which is really just being an entrepreneur.
Right. I remember you saying, when we had talked about you working at Disney, and you said, no, I don't really want to work at Disney. I want to be Walt.
Right.
And that's, I always think about that as like, Disney, I think, is this awesome conglomerate of people that are all dreamers and schemers, and they all have these really big ideas. But at the end of the day, when they go to work there, it is just a business. And again, nothing to dog the company. I think it's just, when you get there, you start to realize, do I want to be the person working for this awesome, awesome company and living on those values and all of those things that were already created? Or do I want to break off and create my own thing after being inspired by working there? And I think that's really what brought us here, is and why I decided to move over here. Was I decided, as much as I loved working for that company, I wanted to build something that brought joy to people and helped people and everything like that, just like he did. So, but in a different way. So at any rate, should we audience questions?
That was fantastic, ladies. That was so good.
Woo!
Okay. Did you ever disagree with each other's choices when it came to going against the norm?
Did we ever disagree with each other's choices when it came to going against the norm?
What did those conversations look like?
Well, we just had that conversation about when I changed banks.
Oh, yeah.
And we were living in Florida. I had come to work for one bank and got an opportunity to go work at a different bank. Obviously, it was a big decision for me, but I didn't really think about that you'd be that concerned about it. I always kind of thought of it as long as I was making money and, that you wouldn't really care. But you, like you said, in that case, you were nervous about that change that I was making.
Yeah. think that at that time in my life, I was probably only 7 or 8 at the time, and I didn't really understand the like world of work and how you could kind of go from one bank to another or switch jobs easily. So we had already made this big change moving to Florida, and then you're like, here's my new office, and I just started crying because I was like, more change? I was like, I don't even know what this means. Like, I think that in my mind I had been like, oh, you got a new job, so we're moving to Florida. Like, that's how a 6-year-old would process that kind of change. And then you got a new job, and so then in my mind I was like, are we gonna move again? Are
we
gonna
just not keep something the same?
right.
Which is a fair question.
But where's the fun in any of that? I mean,
I used to say my life is like a bad science experiment. I just keep changing things
and
without a control,
seeing
and I
what
don't know what's
happens.
causing what. And I
Yeah.
just keep changing.
And I really don't know if there's been a time that I've disagreed with you. Most of the decisions that you make about your career or hard choices, I'm like, yeah. Even when we moved back to Cleveland, I was like, she knows what she's doing. Like, I always just trusted that you had it figured out. With every move, with every change, I'm like, she's got it. She'll figure it out. You know, I've never been like worried that whatever choice you're making, it would be like a stupid one.
Yeah.
You know, and that is, I am fortunate because I feel like I never felt like I really had to parent my parents. I think a lot of kids feel like they have to be like, well, this is a weird choice. You know, are you sure about this? And for me, I'm always like, no, it's fine. So, no.
For someone who knows they're meant for something different but feels frozen, what is one choice they can make this week? A small action.
One small action that somebody who feels totally stuck in their lives or careers can make this week. I think it's kind of dependent on the person, of course, but I think that like it's like going to the gym or exercising or eating better or anything. It's like literally eating a salad at lunch or going to the gym one time or going for a walk. So one tiny thing is better than just sitting completely still.
Right.
So I think that when it comes to making major change, it's daunting because it's like looking over a cliff that you have to jump off. But really, you can kind of get to the bottom of the cliff, but you just got to kind of slowly work your way down rather than having to just jump off completely. I think that any kind of small decision, you know, if it's career related, looking up how much money the job you're looking to change into makes, looking up how to get that job, contacting somebody who has the job that you want and asking the experiences they've had with it, or even just talking to anybody about wanting to make a change. I think that a lot of the time we suffer in silence because we want to just be seen as we've got it all figured out and we have it all under control. But opening up to a friend or somebody you trust about how you're not happy and you want to make a change but you don't know where to get started can a lot of the time start just like a good conversation.
And same, I would say action, just some action, just decide to do something, because the worst thing, and I think so many of us are doing this, that I'm stuck, I'm frozen, I just don't know what to do. We're telling ourselves that over and over again, when in reality, if you just go do something, you're going to see something. That's why I always talk about the road, because you can't see anything when your car's in park. You got to start driving, and then you're like, oh yeah, okay, now I'm seeing that landmark or the whatever. So I think the biggest thing is just to get yourself in motion doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Last question. Do you have any advice for people who don't have a support system when they start choosing differently?
Ooh, advice for people who don't have a support system that will support their strong choices.
I would say look around. There are people that could help you. You just have to not expect that that's going to come from your normal sphere of influence, that it's going to be somebody that you've met, and it might be uncomfortable to ask them, could I just have a follow-up conversation? For example, we just met somebody on the road, and I'm not sure how it all fits, but it was somebody that I'm like, hey, some of the things that she's saying I think could be helpful.
Yeah.
I want to continue this conversation, and each conversation I get something out of it, and so I'm going to just try to keep talking. And that's,
I agree.
Those are the people that I've met on the road that you're like, they've been, again, I hate to get to faith because I used to have this kind of faith, but I don't. But like, I don't know, just that it's not random that you met this person.
Right.
What a great synchronicity that I've met
Yeah.
this person. And then
Seeking.
going along with
Yeah.
people that are dreamers like you, that don't think you're crazy, that
Yeah.
aren't going to be trying to get you to get back in the car.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And I even remember this was like when I was first starting to kind of think outside the box. And I still had a really great support system that was helpful in making hard choices. But the time that I really started to kind of like form my own thoughts on how I wanted it to go and find my own strength was when I started going to therapy about it. Like, really, if you don't have anybody, if you're from a tiny town and none of your family members will be supportive, and it's just a really hard conversation for you, like talking to a therapist or talking to any kind of counselor or somebody that you have at a school or online or anything, I think is helpful because it's an unbiased source that's there to just do what's best for you, but they're going to listen to the things that you're passionate about and they're going to try to help you on those strong choices rather than just be like, actually, have you considered being an engineer?
You have to find people that don't really have an agenda for you.
And that's what a therapist is good for.
I would say our therapist was probably more a coach than a therapist. She was just very good at guiding. And what I liked about her was I didn't have to dredge up all the past and all the trauma and the pain. I mean, you got there over the years. Like, she was just very much more about how to take action, how to handle certain situations. She was a godsend. But that also ended up being because I met the coach, and the coach, where he left off, I think was when we went the therapy route. And it was, so all these people help you on your, I mean, they're all right there to help you.
Right.
But you just have to like pick up your head and
look
reach
around.
out.
Yeah. Should we do a little closing statement? Okay. Thanks for watching. What are we calling this? We still don't have a name.
We don't know yet. No, we'll have to do that.
Okay, it's your move. Okay, I'm putting it's your move in as filler, but then we can whatever. Thanks for watching. It's your move. I'm Liddy,
and I'm Lisa,
and we will see you next week. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Dream Guides. Wow, what a great podcast. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Join us next week. We're going to talk more about the ever-changing world of work because wherever you are, it's your move.